Hello everyone, Harry Bullock here, editor for Total Telecom. We're here today on the morning of Connected North and everything's already kind of kicking off and building steam here. I'm delighted to be joined by Darren Woods, the CFO of Freedom Fibre. Darren, how are you finding the morning so far?
Fantastic, thank you very much. It's our first time at Connected North. We were at Connected Britain in London in September. We are only a young business still, so 2 years just passed on our anniversary. But progress is going really well. So making really strong strides in a short period of time. So we're just about to pass 100,000 homes, on track for 100,000 homes passed. As we are a wholesale provider of fibre, so we've got a fantastic agreement with Total, and we're connecting residential customers now, and we're launching B2B products now into the marketplace. So it's been a tremendous first 2 years, and delighted to be here at this great event.
No, we're very happy to have you. You've already kind of covered my first question, which was really about your progress over the last couple of years. I guess my next question for you would really be, what do you see as the major challenges facing the market right now?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. I think this is a fantastic sector where so much is going on in such a short period of time. I joined the sector about 4 years ago, and 4 years ago, I think the philosophy generally was, if you build it, then people will come and connect. And it isn't as simple as that. And really, in hindsight, it was never going to be as simple as that. So I think the challenges facing the sector, are very much about making sure that we can offer really good value for customers and make sure that we educate them on the benefits of fibre. I think it's important that there's really strong competition in the sector, because I think that generally generates value for consumers. If we take ourselves back to not that long ago, there was only really BT and Openreach that provided a network, and one of the reasons that Ofcom stepped in and opened up access to their infrastructure is because there was a lack of investment coming into this sector, and where you get a lack of investment, typically the customer or the consumer loses out. And what's fantastic in the last few years is that a significant amount of investments come into this sector now. So we've got around about 25 billion coming in to support altnets, as well as Openreach themselves and BT committing 20 plus billion to upgrade their network. Well, in a sector that's got circa 50 billion of investment bouncing around, that's quite a remarkable sector to be working in at the minute. So I think the challenge at first, actually, one of the big challenges is making sure that competition thrives. I like to use the analogy with Ryanair almost. If you think about the impact Ryanair had on passenger rates and prices, it opened up air flight to the masses, really, whereas prior to that you'd really only got British Airways, and it became an expensive mode of transport. And what Ryanair did, and others like EasyJet, is made it much more accessible. And I think that's what the altnet community can bring. So I think a challenge for this sector remains making sure that competition is healthy. I think another challenge is making sure that we focus on making it easy for consumers. So, one switch, if you look at the utilities industry, it's quite easy to move providers between gas and electric. You don't feel it's a burden, and as a result of which you feel as though you're getting good value. I think we need to gravitate towards that quickly so that consumers feel as though it's not a big burden moving broadband provider. And that itself also makes the providers up their game and make sure that you're actually delivering best value. And I think the other point is that we need to be efficient. So there's a lot of altnets building networks. Not all of them are going to be the size of Openreach. Probably only City Fibre will be in their own right, but then there's 100 plus altnets across the UK all providing full fibre access to customers. Then we have to be clever about how we can join those up at some point in the future. And Neil MacArthur, our CEO, in his speech at this event talks about our proposition for an aggregation platform and how we can help other altnets basically gain access to a wider market.
It's definitely a really fascinating time for the industry, and as you say, things are changing, consolidation may be coming. I think one of the things that I really wanted to ask you about was this challenge of take-up and maybe the education angle behind it is, how do you convince these customers that maybe don't feel like they need full fibre right now, or perhaps already think they are on full fibre without really being on it? How does that equate moving forward? How are we going to overcome that challenge?
Again, it's a very good question. As I said, I think in the last 4 or 5 years, I think it's shifted from, if you provide a network, people naturally want it, because there's a view that having a gigabit broadband product means that all of your problems are solved. The reality is, unless you're a gamer and you've got a family full of, a household full of users, or you work from home regularly, then the vast majority of the population are probably happy with what they've got at the minute. the reality is that that network was never built to take on broadband services, and there are a number of structural things happening in the marketplace where copper will disappear, and the way that voice is transmitted will change, so it becomes an IP enabled product rather than it coming across copper. But actually consumers aren't interested in that because they believe that when that time comes, somebody will sort it out for them, and typically they'll look to BT or Openreach as the incumbent. And I think what we need to do is educate people about the benefits, predominantly about resilience and reliability. So all of us experience those moments where you're watching something or on a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting and you have a small drop in your connectivity. And where it's a small drop once in a while, you might live with it. As more of the appliances in your household start to get internet enabled, that'll start to increase. And that frustration, actually, just 10 or 15 seconds of dropout can be quite painful. And if you look at it from a business point of view, that can be very costly indeed. And I think what we need to do is really talk about the value proposition, which is not just about speed, but about kind of reliability and resilience. And in the Ofcom kind of keynote speech that we've just heard, they talk exactly about that point, which if we just focus on speed, consumers will say, well, I've got fast enough broadband, thank you. But if you talk about reliability and you talk about resilience, and then we can add that to value. I mean, back to my previous point really, if you keep good levels of competition and you bring resilience and you bring value for money, essentially people will be delighted to have it. The problem comes where it becomes a very expensive alternative and people don't see the need for change. And I'm so delighted to be part of a sector where the altnets are really challenging and being disruptors in a market which is providing exceptional value for customers. And I think we do need to do more of that.
Absolutely. The rollout's going well, 2 years in. Yep. What's the focus for the future?
Well, I think our kind of mission statement is connectivity for everyone. So Freedom Fibre was formed on the understanding that we didn't just want to cherry pick the easy to build areas, we want to build to exchange boundaries so that we can really help the residents, the businesses in that particular area to completely move on to full fibre, and that because we're a wholesale provider, the internet service providers that use or provide services in that area can move off the more expensive Openreach network onto a full fibre network that we can provide. So I think a continued focus on that, connectivity for everyone. In the build areas we've completed, we're at 96% built, with the other 5% being kind of limit of construction and where we need to acquire where leaves, and we will make sure we get to 100% so we can help those exchanges to close. I think the other focus for us really is making sure, back to my previous point, that we're very, very focused on the customer. Darren Woods, CEO of ITS, has just done a great speech about, he believes that the sector needs to be very much about we're in the connections business, not the build business. And I absolutely agree with that. I think we need to be very focused on how do we make it easier for customers to connect. Whether it's one-touch switching, whether it's efficiency and ease of use, whether it's price and value, all of the things together needs to make it easy for consumers. And that's a real focus for us. And the third, more pragmatic, is that we secured 100 million of funding last year with Equitix, who are a fantastic investment partner, and Santander, and we're in the market again this year. We'll be raising another round of capital in order to progress our business. So, we want to make sure that the journey we've started we can complete over the next few years, and we're at the minute in good shape to do that. I think one final thing I'll just note is that when we formed the business, we were very clear about our values as a business, and we've completed our first employee survey, and one of the key questions was, would you recommend this as a place to work? All the things that we're doing, we want to make sure that we have an employee base that's engaged and enjoys what they do. Lots of challenges ahead of us, and you need people to help you see those things through. And we've just got the results back with 93% of our employees would suggest this is a great place to work. So we want to do more of that as well. Make sure that we create an employment base and a place to work where people really enjoy the challenge in front of us.
It sounds like a really exciting time for Freedom Fibre. Darren, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really great to speak to you.
Thank you for your time. Thanks a lot.